Well, here we are for another edition of GW Unspoken, where we talk about things we don't typically talk about but probably should. And I'm blessed, grateful, can't believe I'm actually here. I've got goosebumps. I'm in the Boss Boxing Studio with Sam. How are you, mate?
Hey, good. Good, Gary.
Mate, thanks for having me in. This is like, I just walked into this gym, felt like I want to start exercising. Like, maybe this is what I need. How long have you been here for?
In this space here, about a year.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, close to a year, or maybe a little over a year. Yeah.
Mate, it's unreal. Mate, now I'm going to talk about you a bit too. So let's check in. If I said out of 5, 1 being low, 5's high, what would be, how are you feeling right now?
3.
3? You about middle?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, right. Bit on today?
Yeah, like I'm feeling better after I just got my coffee.
You'll kickstart in the morning.
Yeah.
That's good. And what's, if I said to you now, what is something you're grateful for? What's something you're really grateful for at the moment?
Just life and living, and just to be able to be blessed enough to be able to do what I do, what I love doing.
Yeah, and I can't wait to get into that too. So, look, if you can hear some background noise in this, we are actually inside the studio here. We've got a couple of fans going, people walking outside in the studio. We're just so grateful to be here. How about this one? I'm going to put you on the spot now. Now, again, with GW Unspoken, I like to have the authentic interaction. So I've given you no questions out in front, so this is going to hit you in the face. If you need some time to answer, that's fine. Let's explain Sam in 30 to 60 seconds. Who are you?
Look, I'm someone who came from adversity and pushed through and made it.
Okay. Do you want to go into that?
I'll go into that. I mean, made it as in I'm on the way to what I'm trying to achieve, and that's self-determination.
Yeah, nice. Okay. And no doubt the people that you have, the kids and the adults that you work with, that would shine through and also give you some purpose too, wouldn't it? With those kind of things where you're saying, yep, I'm going through adversity, people would be seeing you as like a role model?
Yeah. In some way, yeah. Yeah, they come through and they think that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right, so where are we? Where's your studio? How can you explain this place?
All right, we're right in the heart of Zillmere. So Zillmere is on Brisbane's north side. We've got a high First Nations community in here, like for Brisbane. And there's a big number of our mob here. So the Boss Boxing is a First Nations boxing gym, and we've been in operation since 2019. Mm-hmm. And now we recently moved. We started in the little church hall down the road, recently moved up here, but, we might go into that at some point later.
Yeah, okay, fine. And, okay, why boxing? Like, what is it about boxing that drew you to the sport?
For me, it was a bit of a saviour to me, and it helped me to get out of some, unfortunate circumstances and different lifestyle, and it helped to build me up, to put me in a better position for myself and my family in life. So that's what drew me to boxing, and basically it was meant to be.
Yeah, fantastic. And now look, I know we've only met once, really, at a coffee shop. This coffee's a similar theme here. Coffee shop with Rach and some of the other friends too, which was great. And I know we don't know each other very well, but I really expect the chance to come and chat to you about this. And I don't know how open you want to be, but let's talk about your upbringing, if that's all right. Whereabouts were you born? What was it like with family? Where were you?
Yeah, so I was born in Brisbane, born and raised here. Earlier years we lived on the south side over Bulimba, and a lot of connections to the grassroots, like First Nations communities, like all through. So my mother came from Cherbourg, or was born and raised in Cherbourg. Her family got removed, her mother and her father, and placed on the mission, and then she was brought up there under the regimes of that system. And then my father was an immigrant. He came over to Australia, and he was a boxer. Wow. So his father was a boxer. So I'm like 4th generation, and I think that's where it's ended.
In the bloodline, wasn't it?
Yeah, my kids they're gone other ways.
They're playing footy or something like that.
Yeah, my son was playing footy. Yeah, he played AFL.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so leading up to primary school, what was life like for you? You said you went through a bit of adversity and obviously some hard times and stuff, and you're pushing through it now. Was there stuff in your early childhood that you had to get through? And are you happy and willing to talk about that?
Yeah, I am. So some of the things that we pushed through, that our family was built on love. So, it's not the perfect family. There's a lot of, things when you grow up. Mum was on the pension, my father was on the pension, and we lived in the housing commission, units and stuff like that. Not units, but housing. There was a lot of disadvantage, some people would see, but for us, all we knew was love, and we had that. But we had, strict upbringing as well. So there were, to me, there was a lot of stuff that we had to sort of suffer and go without. Like we had a lot of Christmases without presents and, stuff like that, and not too much. But in saying that, our family or our home was one where many of our families came to stay because they had even worse circumstances. So through it all, our house was a haven for other family members who, they lived with us. Aunties, uncles, and people over the years, other family members. So Mum always looked after them because she grew up in a Aboriginal controlled community, like Cherbourg on the mission. She'd always take people in, and our family did that. And even when my grandfather and grandmother were alive, they did that.
Yeah, right.
So they were a house, like a safe house and a safe haven for families and that went through domestic violence and stuff like that. And I only found that out. Mum used to tell me stories, but I only found that out through an uncle. I went to a DV, like a seminar in the city, and there were like government heads and stuff. It was a pretty big one. I can't remember the name of it, but it was at like this ritzy place, like nice hotel in the city. And it was going for 19 years. So like one of the uncles, I walked past and there was an uncle having a cigarette outside. I said, "Hey, how you going, uncle?" And I said, "Oh, yeah, where are you from?" And he goes, "Oh, I'm from Cherbourg." And I said, "Oh, you might know my mother." And he said, "Oh, what's her name?" And I said, "Oh, Aileen Dawson." And he goes, "Here, I'm your uncle."
Oh, stop it.
And
no way.
Anyway, so his name is Uncle Leslie Stewart, and they call him Lello. And I remember Mum used to talk about him and, other people, but he was actually, and he explained, so that this event, I'll have to figure out the name and I'll let you know.
Yeah, good.
But once I find it out, he was a founder of this domestic violence forum. And there was over probably 200 people there, and all government people and all sorts. But he had to tell the story about how he did the artwork for it. He's an Aboriginal artist, and he had to tell the story about how he was a founder and how it started. So when he told the story, I was there with my sister, and we were sitting at the table, and unexpected he goes, "And while I'm here, I have to acknowledge these two young people over here." He's calling me young. I'm 43.
That's still young.
But he goes, "I've got to acknowledge them because of their parents, our grandparents." And he said they were like my mother and father. Then he shared a story with me, and it's it's funny how you have different perspectives or perceptions about things. And he said, "Your grandfather and your grandmother took me in, and that your mother, we call her sister. She's my sister, and because we were fleeing domestic violence. So my grandfather was a cultural lawman. He was initiated and everything, and when there was stuff in the community where people would suffer DV and stuff like that, he'd go and sort them out, but he'd sort them out with a nulla, and and physically sort them out. And then that was it. But that was a safe house. So any of the families, if things happened, and the ladies were suffering or things would happen, my grandfather, one of his roles, he was one of the men in the community that would sort the fellas out. And then we had cultural, our men, and then also our women that also had a law for that. So she would, my pop would stand there, and then he'd deal with the blokes, and then if any of the women would stand in, we had my other nan, she'd stand there and sort out the women, the ladies. But
it's a firm role model.
So it was like tribal law.
Yeah, okay.
And so then they'd look, and then the kids, they'd remove the kids and take them, and then my grandmother would look after them, and then Pop would, guide them. So he gave me that perspective. Mum just used to tell me stories and say, your old Pop, our family was respected. He used to look after the kids, stuff like that. And so, as she say, every now and again, if someone mucked up, he'd sort them out.
Yeah.
But people loved our family, but that was how she explained it. Yeah. He put it into the context of, in our law, domestic violence and stuff like that isn't part of our culture. We had people that would step into a position where they or it was in our culture, it wasn't part of our culture. It was an issue that was around.
Yeah.
But in our culture, we had people who would deal with that stuff in a cultural way.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was a response. But, some people might look at it like it was brutal and stuff like that to deal with things, in that way. But, look at the Defence Force for Australia or any nation, that it's based on violence. So, that's just my view on it.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think of that now. I'm trying to put that in perspective now. Imagine if we happen that, even in different cultures, try to do that now, where someone said they were being domestic violence, and then someone else said, "Well, you come to me, and I'm going to sort you out physically." People would be probably frowning on it these days, wouldn't they? But back then, it probably worked. I'm not advocating either way. I'm just saying back then there was an unwritten law, wasn't it? That's what was going to happen.
Yeah, but the way people will view it and say, "Oh, look, it's like many things. It's like with our boxing gym, and I did give an example of the Defence Force. And I feel that's a bit unfair, but I'm talking about any kind of. You look at the police force; they use lethal force. They use tasers.
Yeah.
You've got to have some form of control. People can't just run around willy-nilly and do things.
Yeah.
And if someone steps out and they turn around and they went to attack their wife with a knife or something, the police officer would shoot them dead.
Yeah.
That'd be it. And so, if people want to view our culture as, that's violence, have a look at your own lens. Look at the world and how it operates.
Yeah.
It operates around that. So you need law and enforcement. You need that stuff for a society to function. And our cultural men and our cultural women and our cultural system had its own system of law, and that's fine.
Yeah. And I just don't know what the answer is, but we've talked about maybe going into the business of doing retreats soon too. Especially, I just think there's a big gap, especially with Indigenous and non-Indigenous young boys or teenagers losing their rites of passage, losing that. I don't know if it's a father figure or whether it's a authority figure or someone to guide them. I just feel like at the moment our young boys particularly are lost. Do you find that?
Yeah, definitely, Gary. And one of the things for me when I was younger, I said I played up. I was on my way into detention, and I did some a little bit of time in detention when I was a youth for crime and stuff like that and playing up. But that was because there was a separation in my family when we were younger. Mum moved, she left, and I was left to look after my father, who was an invalid pensioner. He's always been a sick man.
Yep.
He used to be a professional boxer, and he fought Anthony Mundine.
Oh, wow.
Tony Mundine Senior.
Yep.
In 1969, I think they fought. But they flew my old man over from Tonga, and he fought, and he lost.
Yeah.
But you had to be a good man in those days. They used to fight 10-rounders.
Yeah.
And so anyways, going back to what we're talking about, I lost it.
Yeah.
I lost it.
Yeah, well, I just thought about, you're talking about going through detention yourself and that rites of passage and these young boys. And I think that there's now research showing, for people listening out there, there's research showing that girls are particularly vulnerable to social media because they're natural networkers generally speaking. And boys, because they have the dopamine, that testosterone, they love risk. I'll talk about your young days. I'm guessing you'll feel the same way. You've gone through risk and want to be part of the boys club and, have some ownership and a name behind yourself. These boys are lost because they don't know where they fit these days. If they try and be strong, powerful, aggressive, sometimes they're seen as violent. if they'd be nurturing, soft. Some of those think, well, are you a real man, whatever that term means these days. I'm sitting on the fence a little bit too because there's going to be a lot of people thinking out there. But you know what I'm saying? I think a lot of our young boys particularly are lost in that teenage years of how to be a man, or are they still a teen, you know?
Yeah, I think there is a lot of that. I'll probably sort of reverse back to the question before and probably finish, what I started. Yeah. But what happened was that you do need that role modelling. And for me, I had to care for my invalid pensioner father. Yeah. And my mum left. So, they separated. And then I was, like a teenager who was at the house. All of my siblings went with mum. And then I was the one who stayed and I looked after my father. And I still care for him now. So me and my wife, he lives with us, but he's very ill.
Yeah.
So, with that, he gave me what he could, but there was a void, like a hole, and I didn't have mentors because I was more a carer for my father and I couldn't do a good job because I was still, trying to figure myself out and then getting into trouble and offending and things like that and addictions and stuff.
Yeah.
So that was the addictions and things like that I suffered was now that I reflect on it, a coping mechanism to deal with the loss of mum.
Trying to grow up
too early. She did everything and then, trying to take care of my father, couldn't even look after myself.
Yeah.
And I had to try to look after him. And, but there was a hole, so there was always love, right?
Yeah.
There was, we didn't have the best upbringing, financially and stuff like that, but the love was always there. And sometimes there was tough love.
Yeah.
But there was a gap. So there was something, I'll share a story with you, because I used to have to care for my father and stuff like that. I had a cousin, it's probably other like it's not I'll just share the story, but other people have probably gone through similar things, but little things like I didn't know how to shave and I had to get a older cousin, so he had to teach me how to shave. And, something that you'd automatically think, the father would teach you, but we weren't in a position where, that was what was happening.
Yeah.
So there was a gap in learning and guidance and mentoring from a male in that way.
Yeah.
Because I was more of a carer.
Yeah.
And
how'd you go, John? Not yourself, or did you get someone else to show you? How'd you do it? How'd you work it out?
Well, he had to show me. He said, well, don't shave down and up. You got to go in one direction, and he was like, he just give me the, when we went camping, so I had an older cousin.
Yeah.
And he was like a father figure. He was like a mentor for me and other brothers.
Yeah.
And he was like 11 years older than us, or 9 years or 10, something like that. But he had his own car, he worked, and he was part of the system too. So what happened with him, he was my mother's sister's son, so my auntie's son, but he grew up in foster care. And when he was in the foster care, the majority of our family, a lot of them, and this is unfair to the ones that did, but we had many of our family that were unemployed and were in the in the system, either welfare, homes, or, and a lot of them were still with their families, but we suffered a lot of that stuff, and observed, witnessed that growing up. So we had a lot without, but he grew up in there, and then he was working from a young age, so he had his car, he had all his stuff back, together, and then when he got connected back with the family, he was like our mentor. Wow, so he used to teach us things and take us camping and stuff, and I'll never forget him for that. So thank you, Brother Shane.
Beautiful. Shout to you, Shane. But that's the thing I think we're missing. I think our men are missing that, aren't they? They're missing that mentor, that guide. Reading this thing about being the real manhood, and they're talking about how young men these days need mentors like yourself in the gym. I'm guessing so many guys, young guys and girls, he would still see you as a father figure or mentor, but they're saying we should have a group of mentors, because what happens if I have a son and they don't they like boxing but I don't, and they sort of have a hole in their life, my mates go boxing, I want to go boxing, but suddenly they can relate to you, Sam, you're a great role model for them. They reckon that's the gap. We need 4 or 5 mentors of males who they look up to, have similar values. They can have different ideas, but the similar values that put these boys on the right path to manhood. So I think you do an amazing job here, because no doubt that's a big part of what you do here as well.
Yeah. And I keep going back, but I have to go back because I didn't answer the original question. I go off sometimes.
That's fine, mate. This is about you, and this is about the connections, mate. So I love it. Yeah.
So the boxing gave me mentors. So it gave me access, because we were in a circle where majority of families, there were some family members that were working, but many of, like the family members were on welfare and stuff like that. So that's a lot of what we were, aware of and around. And so we didn't understand a lot of the other stuff, like, how you get a job and, financial literacy and all this kind of stuff. So there was a big gap in our knowledge and around that area. But in the other areas of cultural safety and family and unity and our stuff, we were very, very strong. And people, within our family, we're known for that within the Brisbane community, because of the connection in our a lot of our roots in our family. So, that was the attraction. Going back to it now, boxing gave me access to knowledge that I otherwise wouldn't have been able to acquire.
Yeah.
And that was through mentors and people who were talking about not who's going to go to what party, who's going to do what drugs, who's going to steal what car, who's going to do this, like silly things.
Yeah.
You're not talking about that stuff. You're talking about, oh, wow, I got this job and I did this and that. And from there, having mentors around and other people who had a different perspective and view, I could yarn with them, and then I'm like, oh, wow, I want that.
Nice.
And that's where it went. So then from there, I only grew, and I started boxing late when I was 22, and my daughter was 2. So how I got to it was I had a moment. I was struggling with addictions and trying to get off that, and I hit a very, very low point in my life.
Yep.
And actually, on multiple occasions, wanted to end my life.
Wow, so you actually thought about it. You thought about
multiple times, and
oh, give me goosebumps.
So many times, and when you're looking at addictions and things like that, people who have been through this will know. In my circle of friends, I had you could only count them on 2 hands, even one, solid mates. And these are all people who have been in and out of the system.
Yeah.
But people will look at them and go, oh, they're bad people. They do drugs. They do this and that.
Yeah.
But that core group of people in my life at that time had something, and it was called, and people might go, what's this bloke talking about? But it was integrity in some sense, because there was a morals and ethics that came with that brotherhood. That meant you don't do certain things.
Okay.
You respect your mate. You don't take from your friends. You should do this, shouldn't do that. There were some rules within that, that group of people that had some substance to it, although some of the behaviours were antisocial and impacted the community.
Yeah.
But there was there was a brotherhood. We were young kids.
Yeah. So can I just interrupt you there? Sorry, but what ages were you when you thought of taking your life? Like, was it consistent? Was it one major age group?
From young.
Was it?
Yeah, and that was one of the key things was, when Mum separated and she left and moved to Harvey Bay, and then I had to look after Dad. Yeah. But I hit some heavy substances and like drugs, alcohol, and stuff.
Yeah.
But had those thoughts based on the drug use and my situation, and sometimes when things are weighing on you heavily, you're like, oh, wow, what do I do here? So it happened from sort of young, off like a couple of moments,
So young as in teenage, you mean, like teenage years?
Young as in to a young man, where I hit that much of a low point. So roughly teenage years, right? Till early, like even when my daughter was born.
So even 22, 23?
Yeah, sort of, yeah, because the last 22 was when my daughter was born, and I was still, like, around that time still trying to, I was trying to figure out how to get out of addictions. And
yeah. So you're really still trying to find yourself?
Yeah, back then, yeah. Wow. And that was the thing. But in saying that, my mother and my father did so good with us because I can speak and I can write. I'm good at English and stuff like that because my mother cared. In all of this, people who know our family will go, hey, we didn't know, all of this. They used to call us the goody-goodies when we were kids because we went to private school.
Okay, yeah.
You see what I mean? So, like, there's
a perception, isn't there?
There's one perception that way, and then you can talk about that, but then I can talk about the positives which actually outweigh those negatives, and that was my mum gave us a good education.
Yeah.
She was a pensioner who paid off all of our education in private schooling. So we went to Sacred Heart of Sandgate, then we went to St. Pat's and St. James.
Oh, right.
And I didn't realise this until, like, I was a man in my 20s, and then Mum out of the blue said, "Oh, I finally paid that off." And I said, "But what are you talking about?" And she said, "Oh, St. James, I got the final letter. I paid the last bit."
Yeah, I respect, hey?
Beautiful. Yeah. So she did a lot, sacrifice for us to have something because she come from the mission, and she said, "I want to see my kids have something."
Yeah.
And I have to acknowledge that because I wouldn't be here where I am if it wasn't for my mother and father to give us that foundation. And
it's amazing.
That was the love. We come from stuff. My mum come from the mission, but she learnt, and she was big on grammar.
Yeah.
And she used to correct me all the time, and then she wanted us to have the best education. Yeah. And she said, "No, I want to give you a good education so you can go somewhere."
Yeah. And
later on. And now, that's the foundation. So with all of that stuff, there was still love, and there was still, someone who had enough care for their son and their children to give them the thing that you need, which is education.
So powerful, mate. And you've been through adversity, and you're talking about like having your child and still having those harsh thoughts. And can I ask you, was there a particular moment? Was there a particular person? Was there a particular thing that stopped the thoughts? Are the thoughts gone now these days? Like, are you in a much better spot and you don't think about any in your life? Or what was there a pivotal moment that made you change, and have you changed?
Yeah, I don't think that those thoughts never cross my mind now.
Yeah.
Because I have a bigger purpose. So it's twofold that, the response.
Yeah.
With the first one, the moment was I was heavily addicted to drugs, and I was with an auntie, and I had all my family members over and stuff like that, and she lived at a set of units out of Lutwich, and she's passed on now, but we were over at her house, and I felt that low in my life that this was another time I felt like
had enough.
The head noise was too much.
Yeah.
I felt despair, hopelessness, helplessness, everything that you could feel, and I hit a low spot, and I just, didn't want to be here.
Yeah.
I didn't know how to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, with whatever other issues I had going on. But I walked into a service station, and I felt that low. This is the pivotal moment. It was like a light bulb. I walked in, and I couldn't even look this attendant behind the counter in the eyes. Now, anyone who knows me, and I still sometimes deal with these issues, I won't look at people in the eyes all the time.
Yeah.
But I've had to grow out of that. But there was I couldn't even look at him. Like I can look at you. I can walk past and look at you.
Yeah.
But I looked at this attendant, and there was something that I couldn't even look at him. And the lights in the service station were that bright. Now, I don't know if this was, some sort of side effect from the drugs or something,
or a divine intervention or something. Yes,
or a divine intervention. That's story number 2.
Okay.
So it was just this moment. I couldn't look at this guy. It was so bright in there, and I just went, and I had all the worst feelings that you could feel.
Yeah.
And so that was it. And then I walked out and I went to fill up petrol or something. I can't remember what it was, but those feelings, and it's not, real dramatic, the story. It's just, it was the feelings that were intense.
Yeah, yeah.
And I went, I have to stop this. I have to do it now. Otherwise, I've got nothing.
Yeah.
That's it. So
there's a pivotal point. Yeah.
That was a pivotal point, walking into that service station. And it was because why I said I've got to stop that. I thought all of my family were conspiring to end my life.
Wow. Yeah.
That's how bad it was. I thought people were, like just paranoia, all of these things that come into your mind. Yeah. It was all happening. So that point hit and I went, no, I've got to do something.
Yeah.
And then it's like I made a conscious, decision to make a shift. And that I made that decision, but then I was off and on, trying and, whatever. And then between that time, which was it might have even been a number of years.
Yeah.
But that was the time when I said, no, I've got to stop this.
Yeah.
And then little bits here and there, someone might come along. I think these people were always trying to throw the line out.
Yeah.
I think they were always trying to. But when I was stuck in my addictions and that far, where I didn't want to hear anything, so I wouldn't have received anything.
Yeah.
And I had it was a point from then, and I don't know the time period because it's sort of blurry to me, when I think back. But I had a mate that come up to me and he goes, "Hey, brother, I started boxing at a boxing gym. You want to come along?" And I went, "Yeah, I'll have a go." Yeah. I said, "Yeah." And that was right when I, at that point when I said, I've got to do something. So then he rocks up and we go down to the boxing gym and train. And then I never looked back. And that was when I was 22. So my daughter was, or I might have been 21 or, I was 22, something like that. But I boxed trained for a few months.
Yeah. In
the first session, I spewed up 3 times.
Yeah.
And it was like this addiction, and I think, I do have an addictive personality. Yep. So, that was my new thing. So I was fixated on it. And then I ended up fighting amateur, had a long career, fought international, went to Thailand, New Zealand, Fiji twice.
What a story. It's unbelievable.
Fought I was the Indigenous champion. I fought the, Fijian champion and stuff like that. Fought him twice on 2 different occasions. The first time he gave me the biggest black eye I've ever had. Really? That was 2004. Then I fought him again 2007, and I outclassed him because I came back. I was part of the Institute of Sport. I had a scholarship down in Canberra, and I was at the Australian Institute of Sport, trained down there under Coach Don Abnett, and there was the Olympic coach was Coach Bodo Andreas, and he come from the German, he was Eastern European, and he was a hard man, very hard man. So we trained with them and a lot of Olympians, and a lot of my team that we were down there, a lot of them went to the Olympics, Commonwealth Games and stuff like that. So it was a good experience. And from there, when I went down there, so before I went down there, I trained in, locally.
Yeah.
But I was training and fighting, and competing and having and winning and losing, right? But winning titles and things like that, but just off talent.
Yeah.
And most of it I was training down the backyard, and I had I've got to acknowledge Neville Munn, I've got to acknowledge Alfie Summers. And then when I started the boxing gym, I started at Kabingai Boxing down in Bracken Ridge with Sil Johns. So we started off down there. But, those guys were ones that really give me positive stuff.
Yeah.
And from there, I kept going. But I realised once I went, there was a scholarship, and so it was open, and I wasn't told about it, but I rocked up. And people that were involved in that program didn't want to give me the information about this program. So I got a phone call from one of the guys who came and fought with me in Fiji, and he goes, "Hey, mate, do you know about this? They're doing this talent ID across Australia for boxing." And I went, "Hey," and he goes, "Where's it at?" And he goes, "Well, you should know." And I know this is a bit thing, but he goes, "Your coach is one of the selectors," and I'm like, "What?" "Yeah, I know. That's why I sort of don't want to speak about it because you don't want to. It's not about. It's not about highlighting that, but that happened." So then I went, "What?" And I went, "Well, I'm going to this," and I rocked up, and out of that I got selected, and then I ended up in getting a scholarship, and I wanted to go through,
There's fine threads, aren't they?
And then what happened was I made it in, and then my eyes opened up to go, wow, I'm training down here, down in the backyard, and I'm like, this is what real training's about. So then from there, when I came back, I went to other, I went somewhere else, and I left there, and then I moved on, and then I learned, and then that's where I progressed, and then I went professional eventually. I tried to go to the Olympics, but didn't make it. Got beaten in the qualifiers and things like that.
It's still amazing. So would you say that your fine threads are going back to those? I don't want to keep dwelling on it, but those suicidal tendencies, those feelings of end of life, the drugs, the alcohol. Suddenly, that one moment of the service station to say, snap you out of it. Hey, wake up to yourself. This can't be you anymore. To, hey mate, let's go try out this boxing. I really like it. To a new addiction of sport, enjoyment, maybe even getting some of those frustrations out. Maybe connections of other mentors. Was that then the ticket? Was boxing the ticket for you?
Yeah, definitely. And that was the shift. And that's why I'm here today, because I know it works. And boxing, to me, it's the best crime prevention and the best pre-employment program you could ever make.
Now, this is. I'm going to get into this a bit now because I have all these questions to ask you, and we've just gone on for half an hour, more than that, because you've talked about your journey. You've probably answered most of these things anyway. So I was going to ask you very quickly, if that's all right. Can we go into these really quick questions because you're going to answer some of those things you're going to talk about with boxing, which is great. I was going to ask who attracted to the sport, but we know that. Let's talk about your gym really quickly now. Who does it cater for? Race, sex, age, everyone? Who mainly?
Yeah. So the Boss Boxing, we're here at Zillmere. I'm going to plug it now.
Good.
We're on the corner of Zillmere and Hanford Road. We're 421, so Shop 7, 421 Zillmere Road at Zillmere. We're right next to, we've got a bus stop out the front and the train station down the road.
Perfect.
Like the train station's 150 metres away. So we're right here in the heart of it. And we cater to everyone. So we are a First Nations boxing gym, the Boss Boxing.
Yep.
When I opened it, we started off, fully volunteer run, and now we've moved into a commercial space, and we've turned it into a business.
Yep.
So we operate now as a First Nations business, and we've opened our First Nations Boxing Academy, and that's run out of here with the aim to eventually be able to work towards giving athletes a pathway to, the Olympics and professional boxing and stuff like that. That's part of the dream. So you have to have a long-term goal. That's it.
Yep.
And we're in the process of taking the steps to work towards that. But it doesn't matter who it is out there. People might look and go, "Oh, well, how many? Who's he got there?" It's who we will have, and it's who's on the way. So keep watching, mate.
That's right. What I love about too is that you've still got the long-term goals. You've gone through adversity yourself. You're a great mentor. People are going to learn and love your story and realize who you are and what you stand for now moving forward. And you talked about it's the best life skills program. You said it's the best, to get people in the right mindset. What do you need for your business to get to your goals?
All right. I always do this. I'm going back again. I have to highlight that we're a First Nations Boxing Academy, but we cater and we're open to everyone, regardless of sex, culture, race, anything, religion. Everyone's welcome here. We're very multicultural. We got people from South Sudan, North Sudan, Congo, Philippines, Nauru, many different nationalities, Samoa.
Yeah, it's all inclusive.
Murray, Torres Strait Islanders. So we're all inclusive of everyone, regardless of anything, even ability. So we we cater to the NDIS. We have NDIS people come out. We run programs out of here.
Beautiful.
And we run youth programs and stuff like that. So we work with a lot of kids like in detention that are youth justice kids and child safety kids and all this kind of stuff. So we work with everyone. And
how lucky are they? How lucky are they to have someone like you who's been through adversity to have that as a mentor? Like, you're not going to plug yourself. I know you're not, but I'm just saying these kids you're helping out now, these teens, these adults, you're going to be a massive role model. I hope you understand the impact you're going to have on people's life, but sometimes we can't measure that.
Yeah.
Obviously, sometimes you don't know the impact you have on people. And Sam, I hope you actually understand what you are doing for this community.
Yeah, I do know that, Gary, and I've got to share with you. We had one kid. This was not long ago. He was out the front. I call him a kid, but, like they're in their 20s and stuff like that, and they're suffering, and they're trying to find their ways out of addictions.
Yeah.
And this young man I trained him the day before. And then, or that morning I trained him, did like a session with him. And then later on that night, I was out the front and I was talking to someone and he walked past and he was moving. And I looked at him, I go, "Hey, what are you doing? I hope you're not getting up to trouble, mate." And he looked at me, he goes, "Hey, Sammy." And then he went, "No, no." And he kept walking. And then when I looked to my right, he walked past to the lights and he was moving. And I sung out and I went, "Hey." I call him Wangari. Wangari means dingo in our language. Not that he's a dingo, but there's a story behind that, why he got that name from me. And I said, "Hey, Wangari." And he looked around and I said, "Hey, mate, whatever you're going to do, knock it on the head now." And I looked at him and I pointed at him, stern and firm, and I said, "Whatever's going on, stop it." And he looked at me and he froze, and then he went. Well, he told me later on that, that they were going, there was someone came to him and there was retribution and they were going to take someone out. And he said, and then the next day when I trained him, he goes, "I'm glad I bumped into you last night." And I said, "Why is that?" And he goes, "Because this fella who's a heavy bloke wanted me to do some business and, sort out someone." And, but that happens regularly here.
Yeah.
And we have the mob that come in, but we cater to all. Yeah. But we have a lot of people who are disenfranchised, who come from, stuff and addictions and things and that themselves, because we're right here. Yeah. Everyone comes in, they all know our gym. So,
Yeah. So what do you need from the community? What do you need to get to your goals to help more people?
Yeah, we need financial backing.
Okay.
We need corporates and business and sponsors to get on board.
Yeah.
And because we're doing this, I won't say I'm not a businessman. I don't have a history of, I'm a businessman.
Yeah.
But I don't have a history or a knowledge of, how to do that. And so usually I get people that come on and then they say, "Oh, we want to help you." And so I go, yeah, okay. And then they come and they try to assist.
Yeah.
But a lot of times what we've learned, this is like, I'm just being real with you, is that there's snakes, wolves and sheep's clothing, and there's snakes and people that want to take. So people come in with saying they want to help, but then they end up just going and they're just siphoning information, or they do silly things.
Okay.
So, but I need people who are real, who actually believe in what we do and see the change. We're ending offending, we're stopping suicide. I've got kids here. We've stopped from self-harming and suiciding. We've stopped them.
Crazy.
And we've referred them on to services, but we need help. So that's where it's at. It's financial backing.
Yep.
People who can sponsor us. We have on the 21st of September our First Nations Boxing Championships. So we got Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander athletes from around the nation. Listen to that motorbike in the background.
It's everywhere. I love it. There's going to be so much background noise with this podcast. And I know they reckon with podcasting you have to have like the nice people who are attracted to the authentic sounds and that, but it has to be clarity and clear. And I hope they actually understand we actually are in the gym right now. And there's all these background noises, but I hope they're hearing the message you're sending. I really do.
Yeah. And, our that First Nations, championships, we had the first one last year. It was over at Morayfield. This year we're doing it again, but we want it to be bigger and better. Yeah. And we need sponsors on board. So going back to that,
Yep.
that's what we need. So we have packages, sponsorship packages.
Yep.
If you're listening and you want to, chip in or assist, get in contact with us. We have a website, so you can get in contact with us via our website. I won't say website, it's,
Yeah.
But it's thebossboxing.com.au.
Mm-hmm.
You can look us up on there. We're on Instagram and Facebook, so you can look us up on there. Send us a message. We're also on LinkedIn as well, and just get involved, because when this is the thing, when you jump on board with someone like us, the crime rates in this community, I've got local businesses, the shopkeepers next door, they come over, they sing our praises. You know why? Because crime has reduced in Zillmere
There you go.
since we've been here.
Yeah.
I've got the shopkeepers, the next guy, he's a good bloke, his name's Gary.
Well, of course. Hope he spells his name right with 2 R's. We won't talk about that.
But he told me, he said, "Oh, mate, since you've been here, we're not getting as much trouble." He used to have kids go past, smash his windows and that. He had one kid walk past, knocked out. This is another shopkeeper, Lucky, who's the real estate fellow next door. And this kid was like trying to do him over or something, was knocking on the door or doing something silly. And then they ran off. They're only young kids. And I know them from the community.
Yeah.
And then he's come past and he's gone, hey, brother, there's some kids that were playing up over there. I said, "Well, where'd they go?" He goes, "Oh, they're around there." And they were hiding around the corner, and I went out and said, "Hey, you, come here." And then that we know them. They're local community kids.
Got the respect for you, so they came over.
And I'm like, yeah. I said, "Here now, what are you doing? Don't go carrying on with these fellas, like they're our local community and that, blah, blah, blah." But the kids, like that, they respect that.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, you said it before, I love stern and firm. I love that. That's really good too. But it's having so much impact, and I can't see why people won't want to come on board. So again, make sure you get hold of the Boss Boxing and contact Sam to make a valid investment there, because we all know social emotional wellbeing is the key, and we know the community is getting worse no matter where we go, and those authentic connections aren't around. And I think what Sam's doing here with his boxing gym and obviously his workers are really working in the space of helping these kids connect. You can see what it did for Sam in particular in his life, but also what it's doing now with our next generation coming up. So please jump on board. If not, contact me on my email, gw@garywoodford, 2 R's, garywoodford.com.au, and I can then pass your message on to Sam, obviously, if you can, directly to Sam. Otherwise, through my channel, please, we'd love to help you support that too, mate. Now, listen, I know we're out of time, but I'm going to have to ask you really quickly some really fun questions. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Here we go. Ready? I'm going to find out more about you. We could talk for about another 2 hours here, and I want to do another podcast with you so I can get deep into the social media stuff, your background and how it's changed, and now I'd love to go into more depth in the future about some of the real stories you've had impact with here with the kids and the staff. So if you're open to that later on, I'll have to hit you up for another coffee and I might shout you once you can do this again. All right, fun questions. Ready? Favorite song or music?
Eminem fight music or D12 fight music.
Nice. Favorite food?
Oh, come on. I'm
like
like,
a true athlete. There's too many.
I'm like, yeah, which one do I choose?
Yep. You're on death row now, mate. You can only have one meal. What is it?
Oh, man. All right, this one, it's not my all-time favourite, but when I get a nice gnocchi.
Ooh, okay.
Pumpkin gnocchi.
Stop it. Never had that.
Yeah,
okay.
It's Italian.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right. Favourite drink?
Lemon lime bitters.
Nice, okay. Favourite movie?
Blood In, Blood Out.
I've never heard that one.
Yeah.
Is it a boxing movie?
No, it's a movie about a guy who went through. It goes for about 3 hours.
Nice.
It's the longest movie I've ever watched. But I knew it word for word because we all watched it as kids.
All right.
And it's based in Los Angeles, South LA, and the South American gangs.
Yeah.
So one of the guys came from the gangs on the street, went to prison, and it was just a whole big
big drama folds.
Yeah, and he had identity things because he wasn't he had a white father and a Mexican mother, and he grew up so he wasn't taken in by his own mob. They looked at him as an outcast, but then he ended up being one of the biggest like gang leaders for the Vatos Locos gang over in America. So yeah,
sounds heavy. All right, I'll just look that one up. What's your favourite downtime activity? You got a couple of hours yourself. What are you doing?
I'm in the tinny.
Nice.
Fishing.
Beautiful. After the flatties or?
Yeah.
Nice. All right.
Hey, I got one for you really quick.
Oh.
Do you know how to catch a flatty?
Yeah.
Low tide, 1 hour on the incoming or outgoing tide with live bait. No sinker. Throw it in. Oh, you can get a sinker, but either way.
Yeah.
And that's you're guaranteed to get flathead on a low tide with live bait.
Shallow water?
Yeah.
Mm.
In the channel, like where the little runoff creeks, you'll catch them in good sized ones.
All right. Well, I've got a little tinny too, so maybe we have to work out I'll do a little portable podcast on the tinny next. That's the next one. All right. Do you have a favourite combination punch? Is the hook the most lethal?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's my favourite punch. You got to set it up. There's multiple different hooks you can throw.
Yeah.
But hook was one of my favourite ones. And best combination, favourite combination is 1-2-5 or jab, a cross, and then a uppercut or a rip to the body.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I'm not getting the ring with you ever. What's your thoughts about southpaws?
I like boxing southpaws. Some people say, "Oh, I used to hate." Some people will say, "Oh, I hate southpaws," but because I boxed a few of them, they're actually easier to land shots on, and for southpaws because they're mostly fighting orthodox boxers.
Yeah.
It's about your positioning.
Yeah.
So I like that because I got used to throwing certain combinations on to land.
Yeah. And
to score against southpaws.
Okay.
Yeah.
The reason why that sounded really intelligent from me was because I love Rocky 1 and he was a southpaw.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, favorite movie. Do you have any, when you said how do you catch a flatty, I thought you were going to give me a joke or something. Are you a humorous guy, a practical joker, or do you have any jokes?
I've got jokes. I'm not, my wife, she's the funny one.
Is she?
Yeah. I'm more like, clean joke, eh?
Yep. See, most people put on the spot.
All right, here we go. No.
Okay, no, nice. Here we go.
What did the hippie say when his TV broke?
What did the hippie say when the TV broke? Don't know.
Oh, dead set, man. That's crap.
That's awesome. I'm going to have to take some of these. You know what? The reason why I'm just laughing is because I just had a birthday recently and my daughters wrote me this beautiful loving card how much they love me and blah, blah, blah. But then it said, and they both did separate homemade cards, which I love, but it was like, even your bad jokes, Dad. And I'm going to have to steal some of these. Worst habit?
I've got to really think about this. I always fidget with my nose.
Oh, dear.
And like I'm, like that, or sometimes I'll, go like this.
Brush it across, yeah.
And I didn't think anything of it until someone told me once, and they went, "Oh, it's disgusting." People,
boogers everywhere.
touch their nose.
All right, quick ones. What's the best thing about boss boxing?
Oh, the best thing about it is what we do to help young people and to navigate through life. Like that's, I don't have to think about that one.
No.
Yeah.
All right. Is there a worst thing about the business?
The worst thing is it's good and bad.
Yeah.
Like when you're in the helping game, a lot of people want to soak up your time. There's not enough hours in the day, so you can't be everything to everyone.
Yeah.
So it's hard because everyone wants some of your time.
Yeah.
And you just can't do it.
Yeah. That's a frustrating thing. Yeah. Okay. What's the best quality you see in people?
Their true self.
Nice. The authentic self. Yeah. What's the worst quality you see in people?
When they're inauthentic.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I was going to ask you, our show is called GW Unspoken. We talk about the things that people should talk about but don't. With you seeing clients every single day and people every day and having these interactions, is there something that you think that is unspoken that kids bring in but don't really vulnerably show?
Yeah. Like the stuff they don't want you to know.
Yeah.
The things that's really happening, behind the scenes.
Yeah.
They come to you because they're crying out for that role model. They're crying out for that. And honestly, we're a diverse place. We're inclusive. Anyone can come here.
Yeah.
But with the way that the world is today, there's a big gap when it comes to, and this is culturally, right? I'm saying culturally, our men's business was taken.
Yep.
You spoke about that earlier.
Yep.
The government stripped our men from their cultural position. It's okay to be a man. That's what I want to say. It's okay to have that, have that masculinity and things like that. And people look at it like it's a bad thing, but it's all right.
Yep.
And we're open to we're open to everyone.
Yep.
So I welcome everyone, regardless of your position where you're at.
Yeah.
But a lot of our position as men has been taken from us by the government because our elders, our lawmen, our leaders, our healers and everything like that, and that was taken off our people so that we couldn't operate in that way. Now that I can operate in a way that I feel is authentic, to me, and start learning more about how to operate, culturally and things like that, that's what's missing. So you were talking about that stuff, camps, things like that. Like we're doing programs where we can help young people like that, and that's one of the goals for the future is camps. With our young men, mentoring and stuff. And I already mentor. I do programs like in schools and things like that. So that's a big gap.
Yeah, great. I love how you said the unspoken thing is people not being vulnerable, and you're often that safe space from here.
Yeah.
So, mate, can I ask you really quickly, because I ask this question, a lot of people struggle with it too, and everyone has different opinions. What is it to be a man these days? How could you define masculinity?
Masculinity is normal.
Yep.
Masculinity is not a, there's healthy masculinity and it's a part of your human anatomy.
So what is that? So what if you said to me now, define it, what does it mean? If you're having 2 or 3 bullet points or a few bullet points, what does it mean? What does it mean? What does that mean?
A warrior.
Yeah.
A mentor.
Yeah.
Someone to mentor.
Yeah.
And guide. And I'm being real with you. You could be politically correct, but I'm not going to be, and a protector.
Yeah. Okay. No, I love that. I love that. You just get me goosebumps every talk about this. This is ridiculous. All right, we're nearly finished. First thing that comes into your mind, this is word association. So one word that describes these things for you. Boxing training.
Beautiful.
Early mornings.
Not so beautiful.
Teenagers.
Not so beautiful.
Your family.
Oh, love.
Perfect. It's going through generations, see, that word. Junk food.
There's 2. Poison and the other one is my weakness.
Okay. Fruit.
Lovely.
Vegetables.
Even more lovelier.
Other sports besides boxing?
Besides boxing, look, I'll say recently, AFL.
Okay.
Yeah. Only because my son just started playing it.
Yeah, nice. What do you say to people who say, this one, Sam, I understand what you're trying to do with the kids and the youth off the streets and helping people want to even hone their skills or get better, fitter, faster, stronger. But the prime objective of boxing is to knock someone out, and therefore it affects their brain cells. So basically you're promoting brain damage.
Yeah.
What do you say to that?
I say that at the moment, there's more concussions and head knocks in soccer. There's more. In the sport today, so we're part of Boxing Queensland. It's under Boxing Australia, which is the Olympic pathway to the Olympics. And we're the most regulated sport. So you go to a Boxing Queensland boxing show, you've got to have your medical. You can't, if you box under another entity, they don't have, medical doctors on board or things like that. They're not stringent. And we have rules. So now if you get stopped by RSC, which is ref stops the contest, and then they put KO on the end by, I think it's stoppage S. It might be stoppage or knockout. You cannot compete for, I think it's 24 days. Don't quote me on that, but I think it's 24 days. You can't compete before you can compete again. Yeah. In our boxing club, everyone has to wear 16-ounce gloves. All of the work that we do, so you have other gyms out there that might, train and spar hard. Yeah. When we're in here, we teach our guys, our girls, our people that are here that when you do it, you must wear 16-ounce. So it's extra protection. You've got to wear headgear, all your safety equipment. Yeah. And everything is light and, and you drill. So there's not so much heavy impact. You might have some of that. If it's one night a week, we might do competition sparring. Yeah. Not competition sparring. No, I take that back. We might spar them with tasks. So it's task orientated. Okay. And then we say, well, this is your task. You need to complete this and just work on this. Okay. And they'll only do one sparring session a week. Yeah. Sometimes leading up to a comp, we might give them 2. Yeah. On the odd occasion, they might get 3. But even when young kids are in here, anyways, we have we operate under those rules from the under Boxing Australia. Yeah. And if a kid's even sparring here and they get a head clash or they get stunned, I tell them, no, don't come back. Go see your doctor. Yeah. Get a medical and come back. Now you're not going to get that down at the AFL field or I actually tell them you can't come back to the gym until you get clearance from your doctor. And I'm giving you 48 hours before you can contact spar again. Now, when I used to box, they'd just throw you in. Yeah, that's right. And, you'd be fighting so I copped a bit of damage and I know the impacts of it, but the sport, like amateur boxing, is highly regulated. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, because if you're one of the best players in AFL or league in that, they just get back in the paddock no matter what if they can. Yeah. So no heavy 1-2-5s here. It's good. All right. Do you have any favourite sayings or quotes?
I do.
Yeah. Do you have a go-to?
Yeah. This is my foundation. My whole what I operate my life under. So Gary's smiling at me if you were here because he saw my spirit just lift. Yeah. I'll share it with you. But seek ye first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all of these things will be added unto you.
Nice.
And I'm going to go on to that. So you don't have to be a religious person or, have everyone's got different beliefs, but that's the essence of this boxing gym, right? There's a foundation. The thing started from my mother. She was a ordained minister, and this came with a foundation, a spiritual foundation. And we started our first boxing gym down at the Uniting Aboriginal and Islander Christian Congress in Zillmere, just up the road, in a little hall out the back. And that's the birthing ground. Many of our First Nations organisations on the north side of Brisbane actually started out of that same building. Kabingai is one. Kabingai Youth Development, they're multi-million-dollar company now. Yeah. Kubara Kindergarten, multi-million-dollar company. Yeah. And now the Boss Boxing, which will be a multi-million-dollar company.
Right. The right sponsors there. Yep.
So they all come out of that, and many other groups and First Nations entities. So we started in there, but that's the foundation. And all that means is I teach people. So when they ask me, when people ask me that, I just tell them, well, this is what I base my life around this. Seek ye first the kingdom of God is looking at your end goal. Like, so you asked me, and I said, well, this is the end result. We want to create champions.
Yeah.
So if I keep my eyes on that, all of the things that I want, and I really put my efforts to that long-term goal, everything will come to me.
Yeah.
So when I started, I put my eyes on it, I said, no, we have to get there. I'm looking towards Christ as my anchor or where I look. But then any time some temptation or something comes along and it takes my eyes off the prize, then I'm going in a different trajectory. And that's what I use. So that's my compass is, okay, well, that's where my focus is. Yeah. And all I want to do is his will, but I do it in this way. We don't preach to kids that come in here. No. But that's the feeling. When you walked in here and you said, I just feel like I want to be, it's bigger than us. It's a spiritual thing.
I think it takes me back to that service station too. For some reason, just got straight away. So maybe. Is there anything on the podcast I haven't asked you yet that you want to talk about? Like, I know nearly out of time. Well, probably over time. You're probably going to be late to your next appointment now because we've had a great chat here.
It's okay.
So, but I'd have a follow-up podcast if that's all right with you to talk about more about you and yourself and also what your dreams and ambitions are here. But is there anything else today you want me to address?
One thing I'll say is when we role model, like when we talk about culturally, we had men's business and we had women's business. Mm-hmm. And I said earlier, my grandfather was a lawman and we had my other nan, and they would stand back to back when there were issues that happened, and they had to sort out things.
Yeah.
But the men had roles and the women had roles. And one of the things where they say, we were hunter-gatherers, our men were our warriors and our women were, would gather and stuff like that. Nah.
Right.
We had women warriors. We had different people with different skills and knowledge that held different laws or different, roles that they had to hold.
Right.
And our women were very strong.
Right.
And so what I'm saying with that, we got one of our coaches here, Alicia, she's a Palawa from down Tassie, and she was telling me about their women were the ones that used to hide in the bushes, right? And if you got I don't want to pronounce it wrong, but Truganini was one of the ladies down there in Tasmania when they had the line of defence that came through to wipe out or exterminate all the First Nations people in Tassie.
Yeah.
She was one of the warriors. Wow. She ran the resistance, and she's noted for being a Aboriginal warrior.
Yeah.
And so she led that, but she was telling me not about that because I knew that history.
Yeah.
But she was saying that the women they all had short hair.
Yeah.
Over there because they used to cut their hair off, and they used to hunt for the seals. So they were the ones who had the skills, diving skills. They used to dive, get all the fish, and they'd coat themselves in seal fat.
Wow.
And they put it in their hair. They cut their hair short so that they could swim for longer down under the water. And then they oiled themselves up, and they sit for days. They dig out big holes and sit in the hunting and waiting for the seals to come out, and then they'd take them out. And they were our women. So, all of these things that people try to tell us, a lot of them come from Western constructs, and they try to tell us stuff about our culture that's incorrect.
Yeah.
And when going back to what you're saying, I'm saying men's and women's business.
Yeah.
So behind every great man, there's a great woman. And I have to acknowledge my wife, Tammy, in this because she's one of the secrets behind it.
Yeah.
She's tougher than me. A lot of the people will tell you, they come into the gym, they know she's no nonsense.
Yeah.
And, but she's got her role and I've got my role, but we work together, and that's what we role model. So that's what I'm trying to say to you is so that people understand that in our culture, there's masculinity and it's healthy and it's okay because you need a balance, but we work together as a team. Anyone that comes into our gym, if the kids, they know that I've got a soft spot, and I'm telling you, she's the one behind. She's tough as nails.
Yeah.
So if they get past me, which many of them do, they know they hit me. They know I'm a softie.
Yeah.
So they hit me from this angle. They try to get around, and she comes from the right and takes them out.
Yeah. Okay.
So we roll as one, but we role model it. That's what I'm trying to say to you. And then we role model healthy relationships. Right? And people might look at us and go, like, we communicate in a way where some people might say, no, that's not healthy. Because we can be, we communicate in a different way where we might, we'd be pretty assertive in our...
Pretty abrupt.
Assertive, whatever. When we communicate, but that's how we realise, like, one person will go, she'll raise a voice a bit and go, hey, listen here now I don't think blah, blah, blah. And then I'll go,
back off. Understand,
I realise, and then we assess it.
Yeah.
Well, we've worked on ourselves for years, and to us, that communication style, some people might look at it and go, what's going on with these people? That's effective for us, and we're solid and we're a unit, but we role model that to the kids so they know we're about strong family, and that's what's missing. Men and women that bring up the family unit, that keep them strong. Our elders did it. Our communities did it, and it's based on love. But you need that balance, and that's what we try to do for our families, and then also for others.
I love that. And we're doing a series at the moment with the Innate Code and talk about the 8 things we think bring up holistic health, and one of them is leadership and purpose. You talk about purpose a bit today too, but I think leadership too is about doing. And if you're doing and you're mentoring and people are seeing that, that's where they're going to learn, and then they're going to go, hey, I actually want to take that from you, and I want that in my life too. And mate, it's just amazing what you're doing here. It's incredible, and I could talk to you for hours. I don't care if there's a background noise. We're here authentically in your gym. I want to thank you for your time. I'm going to say something without being hopefully offending anybody out there, but I do know that my wife Rach is a proud Indigenous person like you are too. What I've found, and this might be a bit of a stereotype, so you can give me some feedback if you want here, but she has been very similar like you and your mum. She has taken everybody on board. Suddenly if someone's coming in or driving past and come in for a feed, or you can sleep over, I'm like, sleep over, we've got no beds. We'll just work it out. But we got no bed. We'll just work it out. It's about community. And I love that about her. And I have a strong feeling, and correct me if I'm wrong, Indigenous people, that is often, they are miles ahead of the game with community. Everyone's accepted. Everyone's welcome. Come in. We'll look after you. And that's the feeling I get. And I got the feeling coming here today. Mate, thank you. Thank you for sharing your story. And I'd love to hear more about it. And look, sponsors, we've talked about it. Get hold of the Boss Boxing. Get behind this. It's a great cause for our kids and our teens moving forward. Mate, thank you. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you, Gary.